The main settings for Project Assist are found in the Settings button found on the CSD AI ribbon. The first tab you're offered is Default Templates. When you run Project Assist and open the Workflow Manager, the software will identify what the string type is and apply an appropriate template. And the templates that it will apply are from this particular list. As you can see in the Workflow Manager, you're able to go in and override the template that is being applied. So you can actually go ahead and customize it. However, from the list, these are the templates which are applied by default. If you want to go ahead and change them in here, you can do. They are reading your data folder. So for each project, you'll have potentially a different selection of templates. If you find that you are prompted for default templates, this is because the software, when it first opens the project, does not have this particular template being applied, and it wants to know what substitute it should be using instead. So you'll need to just go in and choose something from your templates list. When you create civil site design templates, inevitably you'll have a variety of different codes defining different sections. The default codes that Project Assist will look for to help establish how the string should be constructed and the model should be constructed are defined in here. So for example, if you do not use an SAW code to define a saw cut, maybe use for example just a SW, then it's important that you go through here and actually assign the typical codes that you apply for these particular aspects of your templates. You'll notice that the edge code is being set in the active drawing settings. This is the EB code. Some of you may use lip, for example, and if that's the case, then make sure that that is set up in the active drawing settings, design settings tab. So the default values controls a number of different aspects of the string creation for Project Assist. Project Assist will review certain strings and offer the opportunity for those to be part of a road widening project or a road resheet project, where it will apply different variations and use associated alignments to control the widening. The vertical design of that particular string can have a nominal thickness applied, and this is where that value is offered from. So at the moment, anytime we're offered a value for a resheet, it will always be 30 mm by default, but as you can see, you can go in and change that value. The sample rate for strings and islands is offered to you as a default, and again you can go in and change these particular values. So for example, if you're doing some widening or you're creating a car park, the tangent sample rate and the arc sample rate can be changed by you within the Workflow Manager, but these are the values that you'll be offered up front. The same goes with when you're creating islands for the tangents and the arcs. A default curb return radius, this is very similar to what you'd have with auto curb returns. This is the default radius that will be offered for all curb returns unless you have created an alignment to define a custom curb return. Create all curb returns as saddle will apply a design variation to the main road where you have an intersection and move the EB code or whatever edge code you've used to within a millimeter of the center line to basically create a saddle. And again, you can override this in the workflow and actually customize which intersections have saddles. The road sample rate is very similar to what you'd have to when you create a traditional road or profile string. These values are being assigned, and the search for the sampled surface left and right. When Project Assist reviews strings, it will actually determine whether or not the sample rate could be increased or even decreased. So these values can only be changed within the settings, not within the Workflow Manager. When you use string control for different aspects of your particular road, for example, maybe you were using a profile string to control the left edge of bitumen, we will automatically assign some constraints for you with these default values. The same goes if you have a footpath that is independently controlled, again with a separate string, but again assigned to the same template. And the same goes with the roundabout. These constraint values and colors can be changed by you by default. It's worth pointing out that the design constraint values can't be changed when you're in the Workflow Manager. So the only way that you can modify the constraint once the string has been created is to actually go ahead and change it within either the design data form or the vertical grading editor. When you create any road string, within Project Assist, you'll have a checkbox which will confirm whether or not you want to have a cul-de-sac created at the start and or the end of that particular string. Now, by default, we use these particular values. So we appreciate that every cul-de-sac could be very different on each project, but by default, we give you these, and that is how the cul-de-sac is created. So once it's created, you can go in and change the properties of the alignment and the associated string using the cul-de-sac tool found in the network strings pull down. Project Assist will use Model Builder to combine the strings together. In the first instance, it will join them together and place them on a model called Design Model. And again, this is the default that you're offered. You can change it at the point of creation in the Workflow Manager. Once that is created, any islands that you create with Project Assist will be assigned onto that particular model or draped onto that particular model with a brand new model, which will have the suffix, as you can see here, with islands. So Project Assist by default will create two model builder models, the second being that which the islands are draped onto. So if any design changes are made to your roads and associated strings, then the islands can be updated. The Advanced tab has some values which, whilst you are able to go in and override, we would recommend you keep these values as default. The first couple of cells controls how far left and right the software should look from a road string to find associated alignments, and in this case it would be 20 meters. And if it can find 70% of that particular alignment within 20 meters, then it will go ahead and use it. You may be prompted within the Workflow Manager that a particular alignment is not parallel to the main road, and we will offer you some different options as to how to manage that particular alignment. As you can override the different options and still continue to choose, for example, whether or not an alignment is simply controlling the horizontal position of a code, we'd recommend you just leave this value as it is at 5. When you run Project Assist and compute the workflow, the thread that is created in the background can be provided with a name. Now at the moment this is found under the Tools pull down. However, you can prompt for a thread name on each occasion. If not, the software will apply a naming convention of its own, so it may be useful to be prompted for a thread name that you can define every time you run Project Assist. Lastly, we have the Resources tab. Every time you run Project Assist, a PDF report is generated to confirm what has taken place to create your strings and model. The report also contains links to videos. These videos are generic, which explain, for example, what a profile string is or what a particular design variation is doing. Those videos are not available on your computer when you've installed Civil Site Design. You have to download these directly from this button here. You'll be prompted to install an executable from which all of the videos will be unpacked and placed into your common folder. The download plugin pack is not currently available. That concludes our summary of the settings for Project Assist.